What's up? My name's Glue Boy. Welcome back to the channel, and we're here talking about the faction I promised. I made a poll of this earlier with a little bit of a delay. Here we are. Today we're talking about the Night Lord. Now, I already made a video on their Primarch, Conrad Curze, or the Night Haunter. I recommend you check that out first because Primarchs are like really integral to the Legion, and I'm not going to go super heavy into his whole shit here. Night Lords, hailing from the planet of Nostromo, a perpetually dark, hell of a world to live on. I feel like you could categorize it as a death world if it was still around. Shit got blown up by Conrad earlier. It is a planet full of the worst scum and criminals like known to man, which Conrad Curze tried to clean up. Kinda worked out a little bit. Terrified everybody to the point where no crimes were committed. However, once the Emperor came around and gave his son an army, flew out into space, that problem immediately disappeared because you can't really attach like a torture band-aid to the problem of a planetary crime. It doesn't really work out. And that right there is the big problem. Once the Great Crusade was going on and Conrad was rediscovered, he immediately left Nostromo. And the Night Haunter isn't really the type of guy to like delegate a power structure once he left. So when he left, things went right back to normal, to the point where some of the citizens were begging Conrad Curze to return. Like, the place you'd have to be in your life to beg this guy to come back to be your leader is insane. And that's where the Night Lords really got their issues. Because you see, back in the Horus Heresy and the Great Crusade, your legions were supplied from two sources. Either from Terra, like the original soldiers that were given to the Primarch, or from their homeworld. Which actually, funnily enough, the original people, Terran soldiers for the Night Lords, also are ex-criminals. They're sourced from a bunch of like prison complexes Terra had at the time. So the whole thing is full of criminals. But once you find your Primarch, it's all from their homeworld. And Nostromo was now a planet right back to its old ways of being filled with criminals, horrible murderers, and just straight up actual psychopaths. And they started getting recruited as Space Marines. And as you can probably guess, super soldiering a bunch of psychopaths is nothing but problems. And that's what happened. But once they went out into space and Conrad Curze trained with Fulgrim for a bit, getting some new training in how this whole like Imperium like warfare thing even was going on. Once they left, they went right on their ways and discovered their favorite tactic. Because Conrad Curze was a big fan of hitting fast and making such a brutal show of just force that you comply out of fear and terror. And his legion picked that up pretty well because they really liked the things they were doing. And that's one of the things with the Night Lords. They do some of the worst shit imaginable. Like, in your head, picture a war crime, and the Night Lords have done it. And the thing is, it was all justified in their head and in Conrad's head because they killed, like, very little people. They didn't really, like, do a lot in comparison to, like, the Space Wolves or the Imperial Fists. They killed maybe like 5% of the population compared to like the 50% that like Space Wolves did. In fact, there's a story during the Great Crusade where a bunch of Night Lords went into a sector that was currently rebelling from the Imperium. They found a cruiser flying around the system. They took it over and flew it over to the planetary capital, where the capital was then fully celebrating. Yeah, we beat the Night Lords. Yeah, they're gone. And as they were all celebrating, they threw the flayed corpses of the crew from that cruiser onto the crowd and let the crowd and that whole planet go into fear-based anarchy as they all freaked out when the Night Lords were going to come murder them, when instead they stayed on their cruiser, got some recording devices, and broadcasted the screams and the turmoil to all the other planets in the sector and took it over completely, got immediate compliance without stepping foot on a planet. That's their thing. And this would pose some issues because the Emperor and the Imperium weren't really really big fans of this. But they never actually punished and the Night Lords like that much. They would just say, hey, stop that, cut that out. And then let them go on their merry way without actually doing anything. And there are a lot of just events in the Horus Heresy. I don't think the Night Lords play a prominent role compared to some others because they were just kind of hanging out, messing with people. They fell to chaos super quickly because not even for the chaos business. As Night Lords aren't really like chaos worshippers, there's some exceptions, like a demon prince that leads a big warband or another like warband that's led by a corn worshipper. Like those are some exceptions, but like they don't really mess with chaos. They just like that chaos lets them be horrific monsters. They're more renegade than heretics, but they fell to chaos real quick with their father and proceeded to just fuck up people's day. Mainly, they did some massive work against the Ultramarines and Ultramar back in that whole entire saga where Conrad Kurz was living in Lionel Johnson's walls. They were on the sidelines just murdering a bunch of Ultramarines and Dark Angels. Like, that was really what they did. They also were there during the Siege of Terra. They just went around killing people again like they do. Until eventually, Siege of Terra kind of failed. Horus got deleted. And they ran away, which they also then immediately ran away to the eastern fringes of the galaxy to go on another murder spree, because that's how you get the tension out. And leads us to Conrad Kurtz's death when he got killed by Am Shen. And honestly, that's most of the Night Lords' story. But yeah, that leads us to modern Night Lords. And they have a lot going for them. Mainly in what is arguably one of the best trilogies seen in 40k, the Night Lords trilogy, led by the amazing character Talos Valkorion. A book series I'm working on, by the way. I'm not going to tell you a lot about the book series, because, spoilers, you should read it. It's really good. However, I will do one thing, because I think it sums up the Night Lords really well. I'm going to read a quote from Talos. I don't like doing quote stuff a lot. Not really my thing or the format I like. But I feel like Talos explains the situation the Night Lords find themselves in like way better than I could. It is not enough. We stand in the dust at the end of centuries of useless sin and endless failure. The Legion was poisoned and we sacrificed an entire world to cleanse it. We failed. We are the sons of the only Primarch to hate his own Legion. There again, we failed. We swore vengeance on the Imperium, yet we run away from every battle where we don't possess overwhelming force over a crippled enemy. We fail, again and again and again. Have you ever fought a battle you'd struggle to win with no hope of running away? Have any of us, have you ever, since the Siege of Terra itself, drawn a weapon with the knowledge you might die? I will not see my life hoard away without meaning. Do you hear me? Do you understand me, Prince of Cowards? I want vengeance against a galaxy that hates us. I want Imperial worlds to cower when we draw near. I want the weeping of this Empire's souls to reach all the way to Holy Terra. And the sound of suffering will choke the corpse god on his throne of gold. I will cast a shadow across this world. I will burn every man, woman, and child, so the smoke of the funeral pyres eclipse the sun with the dust that remains. I will take the echo of damnation into the sacred skies above Terra and rain the ashes of 20 million mortals down onto the Emperor's palace. Then they will remember us. Then they will remember the Legion they once feared. What Talos got up to there in that quote, I think encapsulates a lot of what the Night Lords do. The Night Lords are super picky with their fights. They don't want to fight an enemy that could possibly beat them. And also, they want to fight an enemy that will actually let their tactics work. Because that's a big issue with the Night Lords. Their entire thing is fear. They go for the throat in one brutal strike, they terrify everyone, ruin morale, and just cripple an enemy force. That's their thing. And sadly, at least for them, there are a lot of factions in 40k that don't get scared. Space Marines are like indoctrinated to just not know fear. They will know no fear. Tyranids can't be scared, same with orcs. Custodians, there are a lot of forces that just don't have that. But when you're fighting regular people, like a planet that's undefended by maybe some PDF, the Imperial Guard or something, then it works. And that's who they favor. As well, like Talos said too, they don't want to fight a battle where they could possibly lose. Because there's not a lot of Night Lords left right now. They're kind of screwed. So they gotta fight careful. Which, in a fun way, They're kind of like a fusion between like the Raven Guard's very careful tactics and planning with the up-close, brutal, like melee combat of the Blood Angels. Just kind of meld it together, put some bat ornaments on top, and then make them all sociopaths. I'm not going to get into a lot of the characters, because Talos, read the book. Conrad Kurz already did. We got Sevatar, who is an absolute Chad. Don't get me wrong, but I haven't read his book, and I want to. He's really cool. Look into him. However, again, I will at least give this. I'm going to read a quote from him because it also sums up Night Lords really well. Because that entire spiel I gave about Night Lord's tactics, he sums up like right here. Because the wolves kill cleanly, and we do not. They also kill quickly, and we have never done that either. They fight, they win, and they stalk back to their ships with their tails held high. If they were ever ordered to destroy another legion, they would do it by hurling warrior against warrior, seeking to grind their enemies down with the admirable delusions of the noble savage. If we were ever ordered to assault another legion, we would virus bomb their recruitment worlds, slaughter their serfs and slaves, poison their gene seed repositories, and spend the next dozen decades watching them die slow, humiliating deaths. Night after night, raid after raid, we'd overwhelm stragglers from their fleets and bleach their skulls to hang from our armor, until none remained. But that isn't the quick execution the Emperor needs, is it? The wolves go for the throat. We go for the eyes, then the tongue, then the hands, then the feet. Then we skin the crippled remains and offer it up as an example to any still bearing witness. The wolves were warriors before they became soldiers. We were murderers first, last, and always. So yeah, the Night Lords. Horrific shit all around. Pieces of shit, all of them. And they're real fun because they serve to be some like cartoonishly evil villains to hop around. And from everything I've seen and what I've read so far, like Night Lords trilogy, whoo boy, still only on the first book though. But yeah, I could go on about many of the war crimes they've committed, but honestly, like just picture one, and they've done it. Like I said before. So, instead of that, we're gonna go right to the rules. And it's here I got a little bit of bad news. Because if all of that sounded interesting and you wanna maybe get into Night Lords, they're one of the worst performing Chaos Legions currently. They are not the greatest, they're still playable though. They're not that bad. I think into some certain matchups, they can be good. But for the general tournament play, not great. But we'll get right into that. First up, we have their Legion trait, which, oh my god, this sucks. Now on paper, some of this might sound cool, because that leadership debuff gives you if you combo that with some stratagems, maybe some units, that is a -3 or -4 to someone's leadership. Nice when it comes up, when you have an enemy that can actually be affected by morale stuff, or they're not just gonna hand wave it with a command point stratagem and the like. And then we have their +1 to wound when someone's at half strength. That's not where you want +1 to wound. You want that against the big scary shit, not a pack of guard at 9 men. That's not, it's lore appropriate, I'll say. It's very accurate to the army, but it's not great. The leadership buff might come up more often, the half thing is not. Then we have the warlord traits, which honestly picks it up a little bit. Some of these are pretty good. I got them all around me right now. Specifically, I think Nighthaunter's Curse and Merciless Destroyer are pretty good. Really solid. Nighthaunter's Curse, I've said it a few times in rules, I'm not a big fan of self buffs, but you give that to the Master of Executions unit, that's terrifying. It's unmodified 6, it counts as an unmodified 6. Then, at least for relics, not great. A lot of these are meh. There's some fun weapon choices if you're bringing those specific units. The problem is, standard Chaos Marine stuff, just the base ones from the Codex, are better. And also, for all these fancy weapons, you can just bring a demon weapon, and I'd recommend doing that instead. It's gonna serve you better. However, back on the upswing, some of the unique stratagems are pretty cool, -1 to hit in shooting, stopping fallbacks, or turning off auras. Pretty cool. Honestly, the turning off aura one can be debilitating depending on who you're playing, like maybe Tyranids who need their Synapse aura. Like, depending on how it's positioned, you might get away with some really goofy shit. One thing I'll mention, and if anyone's commented this, like, just wait. You can make some effective Night Lords tournament stuff. I have seen a few Night Lords high placing lists in tournaments. I was reading some of their lists to figure out what you can bring. I've seen them. I think it's a lot harder than if you were just playing Black Legion or Creations of Bile or like Iron Warriors. If you build your list, you want to have stuff that gives natural leadership debuffs. That's going to be stuff like your Raptors, your Possessed, your Demon Prince, like that kind of stuff. That you want anything that gives you a -1 leadership in combat, so then it goes around with your Legion trait so you can get the most bang for your buck. Because the most you're going to get is if you're fighting models with lower leadership, you want to get as many to run away screaming. Yeah, other than that, since you're playing at a bit of a disadvantage just bringing this faction, you just got to play really tightly. Know when to charge in as quickly as possible, get everyone in melee locked in, use your stratagems wisely, turn off the right auras, and you could probably do decently. There's an army I think you would play well and will place well if you just know how to play them very well. It's more just army knowledge and game knowledge over the strength of your rules. But yeah, that's about it. That's the Night Lords. A great Chaos Marine faction. I really like these guys despite how horrifically awful they all are. But yeah, if you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, do all that stuff. See ya.